Hi everyone, Calciny Dead Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a really quick video letting you know some of my favorite albums of this past month, March. Albums that I think were highlights of the month, should most definitely be checked out. Let's start. The new Death Grips album has been completed with the second half, Jenny Death. Of course, these two albums coming together is titled The Powers That Be. If you have not checked this album out, do give it a listen. It is some progressive, insane, electronic, industrial, experimental hip-hop music. The first disc being way more jarring and abstract and just kind of difficult. The second disc, Jenny Death, being way more hardcore punk inspired. There are themes of death, sex, and technology running throughout both halves of this double album. I think it's one of the better releases of this year, and it's fantastic. Death Grips came out with over 80 minutes of music, and so much of it is incredible, mind-bending, and really creative and envelope-pushing. Then after that, I would love to recommend, if you've been living under a rock, the new Kendrick Lamar album, To Pimp A Butterfly. Definitely probably will go down as my favorite hip-hop album of this year, at least in sort of more of a traditional approach to hip-hop. Incredibly conceptual and well put together, long, dense, and creative record. Some fantastic and very diverse production on this album as well. I could talk about this LP all day, and I did already in my review, which I'm going to link you to down there in the description box anyway, so you can see it there. Next, the new Clarence Clarity album, Know Now. This is an insane little pop and alternative R&B record. If you're not aware, there's been a lot of alternative R&B coming out lately, with lots of reverby effects and kind of a very desolate, moody sound palette. But this album takes a completely different approach, making things very dense and experimental and noisy and sometimes dissonant and maximal, and with some really good songwriting too. I find the approach that Clarence is taking here much more engaging than what a lot of other alternative R&B singers and producers are doing right now. I think the way he approaches putting music together, it's very detailed and it's very overwhelming and at parts I think really exciting, and it also helps that many of the songs here are kind of catchy. Maybe he's a little too eccentric sometimes and his voice can go a little overboard to the point of maybe some slight annoyance, but I do think this album is really creative and out there. Another very dense and thick and difficult to sift through album is the new Leviathan LP, Scar-Sighted. This is a really interesting black metal album that melds different forms of extreme metal together for an incredibly layered and hellish display of sound. This album is not only hard-hitting and visceral, it was pretty easy to enjoy the aesthetic and the vibe of this album really quickly, but it also has just the detail and the heaviness and the range of frequencies that I love to hear in a metal record. Something that's also pummeling, but has a lot going on with numerous vocal layers and styles and lots of layers of guitar work as well. I mean, this album just works in layers and layers and layers. There's just so much going on, especially toward the beginning. And in the middle of this record, things kind of become a little more straightforward, not quite as difficult to untangle, but the last 3 or 4 songs on this album get really epic and huge and climactic. So the record itself has a great flow to it. Not reinventing the wheel, but definitely one of the best black metal albums you'll hear this year. Even though it's not a pure black metal album, like I said, there are other metal styles kind of fused in there. And finally, I got to give props to the new Jeff Rosenstock album, We Cool, a personal kind of, depressing midlife crisis kind of album. If midlife crises happen in your 30s, this album is pop punk flavored, maybe a little bit of a Weezer style power pop in there as well. Really catchy songs, very personal, self-focused lyrics, a lot of themes of kind of being stuck in this limbo of being an adult age-wise, but not having quite matured personally. It's the most fun I've had listening to an album this depressing. And those are the 5 records I would like to recommend to you this month. And that's it. You're the best. You're the best. Transition.
Defender of the universe.
I'm feeling like strong. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? 6, 7, 8, 9. And what should I review next? Did you love it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? And what should I review next? Did you love it? Did you hate it? And what should I review next?
Absolute Zero, Anthony Fantano, forever.